Hey guys, welcome to Solo ReacTalk. Today I'm going to be reacting to a video requested by War Angel the Light. It's called The Chimeran War, made by the Templin Institute. If you want to check out my previous reactions to other Templin Institute videos, remember the playlist card is going to be at the top. Just click on it and be able to access them. If you want to check out the original video as well as the Templin Institute's YouTube channel, the links are in the description below. Yes, The Chimeran War, Resistance, the game Resistance. I've played Resistance 2 on my PS3. It was actually the first game I got with my PS3. This was some years back. It was with the game package with the console, and yeah, I played that game back to front to back, over and over and over again, and it was a great game, really beautiful game. I haven't played Resistance and Resistance 3. I never got to it. I don't know why, but I just continued with other games when I had my PS3. But yeah, it's a good game, good horror kind of, sci-fi action kind of game. The world ending, and there's only one thing that you can do is just to keep fighting until the bitter end, I guess. Yeah. Okay, let's start. Sorry guys, I'm digressing. 3, 2, 1, go.
By the mid-1930s, it had become obvious to the nations of Europe that something was deeply wrong within Russia. While it had successfully defeated the Bolshevik Revolution more than a decade earlier, the Russian Empire had seemingly...
They did? They defeated the Bolsheviks? Okay, yeah, definitely this is a different timeline. This is a different universe. Because that didn't happen in our universe, Bolshevik Russia won. But yeah, okay, let's continue.
Never recovered, and the entire nation had retreated into a self-imposed isolation, driven, it was said, by the increasing paranoia of the Tsar. With strange broadcasts and reports intercepted from deep within the country, it was suspected that this isolation might have been intended to conceal a general mobilization, and the United European Defense, or UED, was established in response. Slowly but surely, a clearer picture began to come together of what was truly happening inside Russia. Entire villages and then towns had been abandoned, and strange creatures, believed to have been the result of a Russian experiment gone wrong, were spotted across the country.
If only that were true. If only that were true, that it was just an experiment that went horribly wrong. That's not the case.
When war finally came, the full scale of the UED's miscalculations were made clear. The creatures that would become known as the Chimera were not born of any experiment, or even Earth itself, and they came not to conquer, but to exterminate. The Chimeran War would determine not the fate of nations, but the survival of mankind itself. For much of their early existence, the Chimera had been confined to Russia, in part because the nation's Arctic climate perfectly suited their physiology, but also because of the Red Curtain, an enormous fortification stretching from the Baltic Sea in the north to the Black Sea in the south.
That is amazing. That is amazing. And that's a lot of fortification, all the way from the Baltic to the Black Sea. That's quite impressive.
Despite their preparations, when the Chimera overcame the final remnants of the Russian Imperial Army and breached the wall in December 1949, the United European Defense fell apart almost immediately. The Chimera's numerical and technological superiority were their most obvious advantages over the UED, but the speed with which they advanced across Europe was unprecedented. Any static lines of defense were overrun or circumvented entirely. By January 1950, the Baltic states, Poland, and much of the Balkans were simply gone.
I'm just wondering, how did the Chimerian foot soldiers get the technology? How did they get their hands on the technology? Because I don't think the pillars, the towers, have been excavated from the ground just yet. So how is it that they were able to get, these pieces of technology, like their rifles, what were they called? Pulse rifles, I think. I can't remember. But they had different types of technological weapons that were advanced and dangerous. So I'm just asking myself, did they produce them in Russian factories during that time, or what exactly?
The rest of Europe was stretched to the limits in trying to accommodate the enormous number of refugees who had fled westwards, trying to stay ahead of the Chimera's advance. Startlingly, almost no refugees escaped from territories that had already fallen to the Chimera. Only 2,000 survivors managed to escape from Warsaw when it fell, a
2,000.
city of roughly 2 million people. This was later realized to be the result of the Chimeran's conversion process, which transformed captured men and women into horrific creatures or biomechanical machines. Even German panzer divisions were helpless when facing the increasingly advanced mechanized weapons utilized by the Chimera.
You see what I mean? Like, this advanced mechanization, how was it all produced so fast? And where are the facilities where they created these things? That's why I'm asking, like, did they acquire the Russian factories and, other factories that they acquired from conquering neighboring countries? I'm not entirely sure, how the military infrastructure just popped into existence like this, in resistance to the conversion of humans into these Chimerian foot soldiers, right? Well, the way I saw it mainly was that, humans were incubated in these eggs that were just on the streets, like hundreds of eggs on the streets. And, humans were inside these things, and they were slowly being transformed into Chimerian foot soldiers. And, they would just pop out of these eggs whenever you get close to them. And even some that didn't pop out, you just shoot at them and the body would just splat out of the egg. So that's how I remember how they converted humans into these foot soldiers, into the Chimerian foot soldiers. But I think when we headed to Iceland, if I'm not mistaken, or was it Greenland? There was another tower in Greenland, and they kept a lot of soldiers that they captured from the war in Europe or in America. I'm not entirely sure where. They captured them and they put them in these capsules where they were also going to be transformed into Chimerian foot soldiers. So there's two different ways to create these guys, either through these egg sacs, or they use technology to make them in these, I don't know, like a stasis bubble or something. Yeah. So these guys are ruthless, they're effective, and their attention to detail, I would say, is also quite amazing, really. The way they're able to supply their front lines with brand new foot soldiers, coming straight out of the factory, just like that. Yeah, it's crazy.
In a desperate attempt to prevent the Chimera from reaching the refugee camps established on the banks of the Rhine, the German army adopted a complete scorched earth policy, destroying anything that might be of value to the Chimera. Unfortunately, they remained ignorant to the fact the Chimera had no need for human industry and resources, apart from human bodies themselves.
Okay, so they don't even use the factories. So I still come back to my question, how were they able to create this technology? I don't know, maybe there was a tower in Russia where they could just activate everything there and, they have their weapons just like that. I'm not entirely sure. But, it's a question that has yet to be answered. Like, how is it possible that the Chimera in Russia, had all of this advanced technology, and they were fighting against the Russian army, and they defeated them, and they continued spreading across Europe, with their technology. Yeah.
When the futility of the struggle was finally realized, plans were made to evacuate Germany and the rest of Europe, though many of these efforts would be swept up by the enemy, condemning millions to the horrific conversion process utilized by the Chimera. In only 2 months, most of Europe had been defeated utterly, with the last line of defense centered on the mountains of northern Italy.
The Alps? Wow. And that's their perfect environment for them. You know, they like the cold. And the Alps, it's cold up there, so...
With the knowledge of what was happening in the rest of the continent, hundreds of Italian soldiers committed suicide rather than becoming part of what they called the Deathless Plague. When Genoa was finally taken, Italian resistance ended completely. For 9 months, hope remained that the United Kingdom might remain free of the Chimera, and perhaps become a staging ground for some great counterattack.
Nowhere is safe.
In October 1950, however, the Chimera crossed the Channel, having secretly tunneled beneath it. The British Army fared no better than their counterparts on the continent. The primary British headquarters in London was flooded by Chimeran creatures, and its 14,000-man garrison was trapped and left to die. With this, the tattered remnants of the British military retreated from the cities, intending to wage a guerrilla campaign until reinforcements from the United States could arrive. In July 1951, after months of negotiations, a joint British-American strike on London, named Operation Morning Star, successfully destroyed an enormous Chimeran tower, skyscraper-sized structures raised in every territory conquered by the Chimera. The London Tower in particular seemed to be at the center of some type of Chimeran network, and with its destruction, every Chimeran creature across the British Isles died en masse. Among the most important intelligence gained during the operation was the knowledge that the Chimeran towers seemed to have been excavated rather than constructed, and could be the key to their defeat. With the defeat of the Chimera in Britain, the British military was contacted by the Maquis, a resistance organization gathered from the remnants of the UED. They intended to replicate the success of Operation Morning Star and destroy a Chimeran network centered in Paris. A method of resisting the Chimera's conversion process was discovered during the campaign, and together with the destruction of the Paris hub tower, delivered to the Chimera the largest decisive defeat since the start of the war.
That is just a setback, though. It's a setback.
The Maquis and their British allies pushed onward into Russia, hoping to find some secret that might reverse their fortune. Ultimately, the respite gained here was short-lived. The Chimera had developed new conversion methods, and worse yet, began constructing fleets of battleships intended to reach the yet unconquered nations across the Atlantic and...
Oh, sorry. And just considering how large these ships are, you know, and there were hundreds of them, entering on the eastern seaboard of the United States of America, during Resistance 2. That's what we were confronting. That's what we were opened up to, you know, a fleet of these motherships just hovering over the city. When did they get the time to do this? When did they get the time to build all of these vessels, really? You know? Hey.
Pacific Oceans. In August 1951, the Chimera invaded Canada and the United States, testing local resistance with small-scale yet highly damaging strikes. President Noah Grace, believing a military victory to be impossible, enacted Project Omega, a top-secret contingency plan that proposed negotiating a truce with the Chimera, sacrificing the rest of the planet if the United States were left in peace.
That's not happening.
The plan hinged on a Chimeran entity known as Daedalus, the only creature yet encountered capable of high-level communication. Despite its capture, Daedalus was only amused by the proposal, and President Grace was later executed for his betrayal of mankind.
I remember Daedalus. He was the last boss to kill, in Resistance 2. And yeah, he was a difficult opponent with his psychic and telekinetic abilities. And he was a friend of the main character. What's his name again? Hale? Yeah, I think his name is Hale. I forgot his first name, but yeah, Hale.
Prepared to make a final stand in the heart of the country, the United States constructed the Liberty Defense Perimeter, a safe zone in the nation's interior surrounded by heavily armed defense towers.
Yeah, I found this very cool. The first time when I saw these defense towers, they were huge, huge structures. And they even took down some of the vessels that the Chimeran, fleet sent out to the perimeter. And yeah, they were good. It's just that it's not enough, really. Making a static defensive wall against an opponent that can adapt to any type of situation. They can even dig underground and come to the surface. Then there's no point to a static defense ring like this. It's just not going to work. You can take down a few of those vessels, but the ground forces are still numerically superior, technologically superior, and the enemy is ruthless. They are here to exterminate or to convert.
Between 1952 and 1953, the Chimera overcame their natural inability to survive in higher temperatures and swept through Africa and Asia. As in Europe, they unearthed enormous towers and herded the surviving population into vast conversion centers. The Royal Navy managed to evacuate roughly 170,000 civilians, with the rest left to fend for themselves. Additional attacks occurred in South America and Australia, and every city with a population over 100,000 was targeted for conversion. In May 1953, the final campaign of the war began when the enormous Chimeran warships constructed across the conquered territories of the world arrived on both coasts of the United States. Resistance to the invasion lasted only 8 days before the Liberty Defense Perimeter was breached.
Yes, sorry guys, it wasn't on the eastern seaboard where Resistance 2 started. I think it was on the west. San Francisco, maybe. Yeah, that's where it started. Yeah, I made a mistake there. Sorry. But yeah, I just don't know how we won against this in Resistance 2, because at the end of Resistance 2, I'm not sure, I can't remember, but we won, but we didn't win. That's all I can say. Like, it was a bittersweet ending, if I can say like that. I'm not sure what happened in Resistance 3. Maybe I'll have to watch the gameplay for that. But, after Resistance 2, the ending was a bit confusing for me. But yeah, it was bad. This was bad. This invasion was a total defeat, I would say, for humanity.
And the 80 million people trapped within it were killed. In one last desperate gambit, remnants of the American military attempted to destroy the Chimeran fleet which had gathered over the Chicxulub crater in Mexico. The detonation of an atomic bomb annihilated many of the Armada's warships, and Daedalus himself was killed in the attack. But the explosion had the unintended effect of opening a direct rift to the Chimera's homeworld.
Yep.
By 1957, 90% of the human population had been killed or converted, and any semblance of organized military resistance was over, and with it, the Chimeran War. With additional soldiers for their army no longer needed, the conversion camps were dismantled, and any survivors were simply exterminated by the Chimera whenever found. Mankind was reduced to a few scattered communities. If any hope remained in victory, it would be found in one of these last, isolated pockets of humanity. In High Command, the Templin Institute investigates the greatest battles, conflicts, and wars from across alternate worlds. If you have a suggestion for a future episode, let us know in the comments section, and if you'd like to support us directly, a link to our Patreon can be found in the description.
Okay guys, that's it with the Chimeran War, made by the Templin Institute, requested by War Angel the Light. Thank you very much. Yeah, there was just no way that humanity was going to make it out of this, intact. There's just no winning in this type of battle. It's not like other franchises, like, maybe like Halo, where, there they had technology, they had vessels that could enter into space, they had super soldiers, they had all of these advantages. And still, the Covenant brought us to our knees, literally to our knees. We were at the verge of extinction in that game. In this one, it's total. It's total. Like, whatever left of humanity is just a few scant, villages here and there dotted on planet Earth, keeping themselves hidden and away from the Chimera. And, now essentially humanity is like game, the Chimeran are going to go out there hunting us like we're animals, and shoot us and keep us as trophies, because they've conquered Earth. Earth is theirs now, and the resources and everything about it belongs to them now. So yeah, the Resistance games just showed us what would really happen if humanity was invaded by an alien species, a very advanced alien species. They're not just advanced technologically, but biologically they are extremely advanced. The fact that they're able to convert us into them, and convert humans into these foot soldiers, is an advantage that we can't seem to counteract. It also reminds me of Mass Effect 3, how the Reapers also converted humans into husks and other alien species into different types of Reaper foot soldiers. In that one, we had Commander Shepard, we had the Alliance fleet, we had the Citadel racist fleets. That saved the day. They had that kind of advantage. Here, there's nothing like that. Here, there's nothing like that. And I'm also thinking about another movie. What is it called? The Independence Day. Independence Day. We were confronted by a very advanced civilization, using weapons of mass destruction like nothing else we've ever seen before. Vessels that are far larger than our biggest cities. And somehow we won in that movie. It's also a plot armor, I would say, because honestly, we should not have won that war. It was by chance, it was by luck, it was by a computer virus. Somehow, some way was able to infect the mothership of these aliens, and we defeated them, But technologically, like, even in history, the European empires, when they started to colonize the known world, they had advanced technology compared to those countries, or should I say those lands or those kingdoms that did not have sailing ships that could sail across continents. They did not have gunpowder weapons, and they were defeated. And it's kind of like the same situation here, where we are facing up against a very advanced society that has completely decimated us. So yeah, I kind of agree with what has happened here in this game. Although I'm very sad for humanity, but there is no fairy tale. There is no luck. There is no chance. This is just what it is now. Total and utter defeat. But I wonder, in Resistance 3, did we win? I'm not sure. In Resistance 3. You guys in the comment section, you guys can tell me. Maybe we survived somehow in Resistance 3. But Resistance 2, that was horror. It was just horror. Really. Okay. Guys, yes, that's it. I talked about this game too much. Sorry. But yeah, this was really nice. Thank you to War Angel the Light for requesting that I should react to this video. And guys, remember, if you want to check out the original video as well as the Templin Institute's YouTube channel, the links are going to be in the description below. If you like my reaction, please give me a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Click on the notification bell if you want to be up to date with my latest videos, and I will see you guys next time. Okay, bye bye.